What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Omnic Lab. We're a podcast that focuses on the strategies in the game of Overwatch, and we help you learn through trial and error in a lab-type format, like using the scientific method to make sure things don't necessarily always break, but give you some strategies and some tips and tricks to help you become a better player. This week, Andres and I are doing number 76 of the Omnic Lab. This week, we're talking Halloween and Hooligans. If you guys are here for the live show, you'll be seeing that we are a little dressed up for something fun, and this is something you definitely want to go back to YouTube and check out. But I'm your host, Rob May, and joining me as always is Andres in Georgia. What's up, Andres?
What's up? What's up? Yeah, for those of you in the chat who are wondering, what am I am not a Christmas elf. I am Link from Zelda. Just wanted to clarify that. And also, we got a couple of hooligans who snuck into the show today.
You forgot to mention the two hosts of High Noon Podcast. The two-time. I don't know. We're not two-time anything, but you're also listening to High Noon Podcast. We're two-time podcast hosts.
Yeah.
1983,
So
1984 podcast hosts.
Yeah. 1983. So we got Blevins here. What's up, Blevins?
Hello.
And then we got the Vape Nash represents.
What's going on, everybody?
Deathblow gagging inside of a warthog.
This is a
no. He's got a gas mask
Absolutely.
on. If you guys are not here,
Very difficult to talk with this on. It's tight. It's warm, but I'm here.
I'm also literally blind.
like a mother's hug.
I appreciate you guys' commitment to the costumes. Like, for those of you who can't see it, I recommend going to the YouTube or Twitch version of this, because Deathblow's costume is the best costume in the world. He has the Roadhog gas mask, and he has also his little vape, and he can do the Roadhog heal live.
He's got four swag holes for escape hatch, basically. And Blevins has got on the Dr. Disrespect mixed with friggin'
Deadpool. It's really just it was really just lazy because I didn't want to shave the beard.
Dead respect.
It's Deathblow, the two name. I just want to assure everyone that the beard is still safe under here, even though my headphones are not.
Headphones are not. And then I'm up over here with the budget Mario hat that I picked up because it's Odyssey release day. If you're in the States, but it's release day yesterday for me. But man, let me tell you guys, this week is going to be hot and hooligan-y, I guess you could say, because we're going to talk about some cool stuff with Halloween. We're going to talk about the event a little bit. But more than anything, we'd like to actually sit down and talk what we think predictions-wise as best we can with, do some predictions that are reasonable. A lot of people like to do some theory crafting, some things that are like, this is what we want on a wish list. But this week, I think Andres and I and Deathblow and Blevins were really wanting to kind of give you what we think is going to happen, like for real. And then
I had pie in the sky stuff. It's not even remotely
pie in the sky. Well, that's what we brought you here for,
Overwatch 5
That's what we expect
is coming out.
Overwatch 5. We're skipping 2 and 3, and 4 was already a flop in the first place, so we're getting to 5. But yeah, we're going to cover some really big news that we got as well with a humongous esports developer update, and then a couple new teams for esports because we got the esports podcasters here. So let's jump into some news. So I was able to make our game night last night. It was pretty fun. We had quite a few people show up to the PC one before I even got there, and then we had enough to do 2 lobbies really late. So I was pretty happy about that. I know some of the guys for PS4 and Xbox also showed up, had a pretty good turnout. And then yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did anything from deathmatch to like actual comp and team captains and stuff. It was a lot of fun. We got some people in the chat even saying, yeah, it was all right. No, I'm just kidding. They said it was fun. But we also got a new post from Switch, who was the guest last week with CS on continuing with the console meta. If you guys are curious about that, you can go over to omnicmeta.com. And this is October 27th for Season 6's closing console meta. But I'm going to turn it over to Deathblow, and he can talk about the 2 new esports teams that were released over the last couple weeks for Overwatch League.
All right, so getting put on the spot a little bit here. I just need to find the Seoul Dynasty roster officially, so that way we can talk about those. But yeah, essentially the Seoul Dynasty and the Boston Uprising.
They're great.
There's two new team names that have been announced very recently, and also the rosters for them as well. Taking a look here, let's see. If anybody gets either of the rosters, by all means, just start.
Let's talk about the names while you find the rosters, because like that's one of the more controversial things to me. Like, okay, some of the names in the league I've been loving. Some of the other names I feel like they're gonna have to grow on me. They're gonna have to show some really amazing stuff for that name to like really sink in. You know what I mean? What do you think about these two?
Well, personally, I kind of like them both. I mean, the whole marketing aspect of things. Also, it's going to come out very soon. I am honor bound and obligated to just despise everything about Boston, but I will try my best to
Nice.
Be neutral. And honestly, I think that hopefully that shows up with the branding here, because I actually really like their name. The Boston Uprising, I thought they did a really good job of tying in the regionality of the Boston area. Obviously, this is where, the Boston Tea Party was and the Revolutionary War got started and everything like that. So it definitely really fits in. The logo, I like it. It's different. It's I don't know. It's kind of exciting. I'm not into the team, so it's hard for me to judge it. But the one thing I will say is they do have like just this abysmal, terrible color color palette here, and it's like this blue and yellow that I don't know. It just makes me think of like Minions from whatever it is they're from, and like
Despicable Me.
Yeah, from Despicable Me, and
Yeah,
I don't know.
pretty much.
It's just kind of a weird color combination. But one thing, me and Blevins were talking and like looking at the merch, they posted pictures of their shirts and their hats, and like there's no blue anywhere on it, and it's just black and yellow and white, and it just looks so much better that I wish they would have just done the 2 colors and gone with that. And I don't know, but for the most part, it'll be really interesting to see. I think it's a really good brand for people to kind of grab onto and really like and go with. So I don't know. Generally speaking, I like it. What do you guys think of the Boston one?
I like it. I like the name more than the, like you said, like the skin. I really like the branding they're going with the Asian teams, though. The Shanghai Dragons and the Seoul Dynasty. That sounds like very, I don't know, like very regional, very of like their culture kind of thing. Like
They're like
Dynasty,
timeless names.
Yeah.
They're pretty sweet. We also missed one that I forgot to put in the show notes, so I'm just going to jump on that train. But we got the Los Angeles Valiant, which is the first of the named LA teams, if I'm correct. Because I think the other one is Shock, right? And that's San Fran, not LA.
Right.
I think Valiant is my
This
least
team is
favorite
like-
name of the league. I don't know. Some people have been liking it. It's a cool word, but I don't know. It just sounds weird to me for a team. That one needs some time to grow.
Here's one for you, Andres. The New York Excelsior.
Okay, I think that one takes the
now
cake.
what's
I
one
think
that's
that one
favorite
takes the
to
cake.
I was thinking about the New York Excelsior, right? And I'm like, that's kind of a weird, clunky name. But you know what is also a weird, clunky name? Knickerbockers, which is what the Knicks are. So like they're gonna come up with something, right? Like no one ever
Should've
like
gone with the
questions the New
teabag.
York
That's
Knicks,
true.
right?
That's true. Maybe call the
Like-
Excel or no, Excel is
Excel,
taken. Microsoft
I
it
don't know.
down.
Microsoft Excel comes to the
Yeah.
Overwatch League.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of hidden sponsors, right? Because like San Francisco Shock,
There's
the logo
gotta
looks
be.
almost exactly like the SoundCloud logo. Like I'm surprised
Yeah.
they didn't get sued. The LA Valiant, the Mercy skin looks like it's a John Deere tractor. So like there's got to be these like hidden sponsors somewhere, right? I don't know.
Yeah, but the Dynasty looks insanely cool. I
Yeah,
have to like
they're
back up to that
great.
one. Those colors are sweet.
Yeah, it's for those who don't get my stupid Tony the Tiger joke. Their logo is a golden tiger, which is awesome.
It's basically the coolest thing on the planet. That Diva skin is straight fire, I have to say. That's really cool. The golden highlights on stuff. And their other color, if you guys are curious, like if you go to the Overwatch League pages, they have the dominant color, and then they have the secondary color, and then they have actually the third, which is the highlight color. And theirs is white. So I'm very curious to see how they do their branding with these things, and what the third color portrays. Because even with Valiant, as ugly and as hideous as their logo colors are, the yellow in the brand is actually the highlight color, and black is their secondary if you look at the color palette. So I'm very interested to how this is going to translate when you get into the game with our next bit of news. This is a seamless what is it called? Transition.
Buttery
Transition.
smooth.
So buttery smooth. I can't even think about it. The developer update this week is actually straight from an entire thing on esports, which is not the first developer update that we've gotten on esports, but this is by far one of the coolest things that we've received. We have basically, if you guys don't mind, I'll just run through the first thing and we can discuss it, which is team uniforms. So this is not what your mama goes to for your Christmas and buys you a jersey. This is team uniforms in the game and color palettes, which means they're going to have a light and a dark tone depending if you're home or away in the game. And I'm assuming this is going to continually play off of home and away when you get into regional accumulation of teams for season 2, once we get into doing that outside of the LA season 1. And that has got me really excited, because that means not only are the teams getting them, but we're getting them. And the first set of these team uniforms is actually coming to those teams that made it to BlizzCon. Every one of the teams at BlizzCon will have a team uniform and a corresponding color palette for home and away. What do you think about this?
So awesome. Yeah, I'll let you guys take it first, but I'm excited for this.
Yeah. Okay, two things come to mind. A, super excited. We talked about for a long time, basically when we saw the first team branded skin, it's like, I hope that these are for every hero. Like, I don't want it to just be the Shanghai Dragons has that one Mei skin. So now that's basically a confirmation that it's going to be across all the heroes, which is awesome. The thing that I'm worried about is how much money I'm going to spend on these.
It's starting to get scary there, Blizzard.
My wallet, I'm just like looking at a picture of my wallet like Back to the Future, and it's just fading out of existence. Like,
disintegrating slowly.
It's like it never even existed in this reality. Yeah.
No,
so,
and
I mean,
and not only that, but like what I'm mostly excited about is also the recognition, right? Like the in-game recognition of being able just to tell apart the teams. Because one of the most annoying things when watching esports, especially watching these two teams, is both teams will have a McCree or both teams will have a Genji or something like that. And one will be red and one will be blue. And even though they made it so that the colors always stay with the same team, it's still super confusing when you just do like that quick swap from one to the other. And it's just really hard to tell sometimes who's fighting who, and especially for newer people, right? People that are not super familiar with the game. Because I've been playing this game since it came out. I have like close to probably 1,000 hours in this game already. And I still have trouble like telling apart the teams in like the competitive setting. So I don't know. This is just going to be such a good way for people to instantly be able to tell that guy is from Japan or that guy is from the US. You know what I mean? Like right away.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to.
Oh, sorry, Blevins. I didn't mean to cut.
Oh no, I was just
going on my end.
I was just gonna say, like, you still have to, even as a seasoned competitive Overwatch person, like that's watching the games, you still have to like take a good like pause before you go on and be like, okay, Misfits is on attack here, they're blue, the Takai is red, they're on defense. It's like, okay, I got that now. And then like you constantly have to like keep looking back. Like if you forget or if you're, you know,
Check the
watching something
scoreboard
else,
just to see what color people are.
just to see what team people are on. And like if you're
Yeah,
not familiar with all the
exactly.
players and stuff, it's like it's very confusing. This is gonna help alleviate that a lot.
Yeah.
And a third reason why this is awesome is that you know, I personally plan to buy a couple jerseys for a few different teams, and now you just have like options, like real life jerseys. So not only does it help in game, and it helps in the spectator
game.
client, but it helps with like your merch decisions. You know, you'll have kind of two
Oh,
options
yeah.
here: a home and away jersey that you can look into buying, and I really like that aspect of it as well, because obviously you're going to need to buy your team's jersey, but like I don't like wearing white clothes because I'm kind of a messy human being, and like you know, so you know, things like that, it'll help with being able to buy the right merch. And so I'm really excited about it. Honestly, the whole developers update was just like music to my ears personally.
Oh yeah.
Now, the skeptic in me comes out a little bit, though. I have to say, like, because of how difficult it is, and having the color palette seems really great, but like, I still think that there's a lot of work that they're going to have to do in this, just from the aspect of the you have the kill feed, you have the player outlines themselves, so you can identify the heroes, and then you also have the scoreboard. So they have to change the in-game scoreboard to reflect these. Are they just going to make sure that like red or whatever team is predominantly one color gets to be that in the scoreboard? Because like you know what I mean? Like they're going to have the jerseys, so it'll make it at least understandable when you're watching the players shooting the other players. But when you're looking at the score, you're like, oh crap, I don't know which one of these is red, even though one is like yellow jerseys and the others is green jerseys. You're like, well, who's actually winning here? You know what I mean?
That's a good point. And I do agree. They are gonna have to match all the scoreboard and especially the kill feed with the colors. Because if not, like what you said, it's gonna be super confusing. Like, okay, so they're green, but in the kill feed they're blue. Like that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. I could just say that I'm pretty sure what's gonna happen is somebody already beat me to the punch in the chat here. But like what I think is going to end up happening is the color paletting is going to be like the major thing, and like all of the other things are kind of minor. And so what's going to happen is whatever, you know how they have the three main colors for the team color palettes on OWL, and most likely with the what's it called, the World Cup teams, they're probably just going to assign each of the teams one of those colors like they did with the reticles. And you remember when they added all the reticle colors and all those things. I think they're just going to add those into all of the other things and just put them into the custom game browser. And then
that'd be cool. Yeah, if you could play with the colors of your team, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. I mean, I think as long as you have like two colors that aren't similar, and you can, and like if they have it built in so that you can't have like light blue versus dark blue.
Yeah.
And like I think you should be good.
And
that's the other thing, right? Like sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say like something that's really cool is maybe the ramifications of getting skins in the game. So let's say Blevins has a team and I have a team, and we want to go do scrims. So what we can do is we can actually just like we aren't officially OWL teams, and even if in the casual team, like I could just have my team assign all of us like the USA jerseys, and then you guys really like Misfits, so you just guys run the Misfits jerseys. And like there's just super cool like smaller community Overwatch that can be done in such a really cool way in the tournaments. I think that's really, really big support for the big teams.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like one of the coolest things about like real sports, like soccer, for example, is that like when you're playing like soccer in your neighborhood, you just show up and you'll be wearing like your team's jersey, for example, but then your neighbor will be wearing like the other's jersey. It also happens in basketball or whatever, and it's kind of like this kind of like grassroots movements that just keeps promoting kind of like the competition and being able to like highlight these teams. So this is the first time actually that I've seen this happen in a video game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't heard of another video game that has taken the competitive scene, assigned teams, and then recreate those teams inside of the game, like the branding of those teams, so that people can kind of like have that same kind of feeling. I think is really cool. And it's definitely gonna help promote like the league itself, right? Like somebody who's not into esports that goes into the game and goes into the custom skins and just sees all these like team jerseys and stuff, like whether you want it or not, they're going to be exposed to the competitive side of the game, and they're going to be more inclined to be, well, I kind of want to see who's good. Like what jersey should I buy? Like who should I root for? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Houston.
Yeah, the only.
I'm sorry, you weren't
That's the answer.
It was a rhetorical question. The closest thing we've ever seen to this is like there's been some games that have items that are team branded. So like you can get like Cloud9 stickers and Cloud9 gun skins.
Right, yeah.
Counter-Strike, and like also in Halo too.
Halo just came out with that new stuff, right? That's like brand new.
It's so cool. But in terms of like a full, I mean, Blizzard kind of does their skins completely differently. But in terms of like a full skin for your hero, I don't think so.
Deathblow, do you want to take the next bit of the developer update from show notes here?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're adding a new tool in for broadcasters, and it's basically, this is something that I'm dying to like see in action because I'm not 100% sure what it's actually going to look like. But they're announced a top-down interactive map for the broadcasters, so it'll give everybody. I'm guessing it's going to be very similar to a mini-map style thing like you'd see in Counter-Strike and things like that. Something they made a decision a long time ago. They don't want in-game when you're playing, but at the same time, it's super beneficial to the broadcast. So it looks like we'll be getting it in spectator mode. And I think really anything that helps convey information on screen is just beneficial, as long as it's not cluttering things up. So it'll be really interesting to see how they implement it. I do believe they're broadcasting with this, at least for the finals of BlizzCon. I don't know how much of the BlizzCon tournaments we'll get to see on the new client, but I do think at least a little bit or one match we should see on the new changes. So I'm really excited to see that. How do you guys feel about having that mini map or that top-down view of everybody's positioning in real time?
Oh, I'm super excited for it. One of the things that like I really want to see when I'm spectating a game is the team formation, right? Like the team shape. And that is so hard to see when you're just getting like first person perspective. And even in third person perspective is just too hard to follow, right? Especially you want to see, for example, how the flanking Genji is moving. If you can see kind of like the cluster of the team and then see how the Genji moves, then see when the time they engage, you can have this like perspective that you couldn't have before, right? Of seeing how the team chooses to move itself, how they choose to retreat, and just watching the clashes in teams, or like just being able to see like the mini fight of like the enemy McCree went to get rid of the Genji, and like being able to keep track of all those little nuances that it's so hard to do when like everything is going on. It's just gonna be so helpful not only for the casters, but also like if they make it available to the public and just use it as a spectator tool so that people can keep always the mini map while switching cameras, just so much easier to keep track of the whole fight.
Yeah, I particularly love it just from the perspective of, I'm a player on a team, and I'm sure we review pro VODs as a means to get better. And those poor support players sure don't get any screen time ever. And I don't even blame the broadcasting team for it. Like a Lucio gameplay is not necessarily the most exciting at all times in an esports world. But at the same time, it's really important to me trying to analyze where their flex support's standing so that I can try to mimic his positioning and try out where he's standing and things like that. And it's sometimes very difficult to get that when you're watching the current esports broadcasts. And the number of times I will watch the same play over and over again, hoping for one frame of like a Zenyatta orb coming flying across so that I can like get an idea of where he is not a small number of times that's occurred. So it'll be, I think, great from a lot of aspects. I'm really excited about that one too. And also,
I think it'll help the.
Go
for it. I'll go after you.
Oh, yeah. I was just gonna say, I think it'll also help for the observers as well that are actually like controlling the cameramen of the matches as well. It's like you can see, like we've seen in the past, and like all the credit in the world to ZP and Hex back in the old days, but it was just them doing the casting and observing and like providing insight. And it's like your brain can only do so much, and they did a ton. But like we said, like if you look back in the old days, it's like, okay, we saw like 75% of the map was on Genji because Tavik is doing this. But like if you have this top-down view, and it's like you can just see at a macro level, like, okay, well, well, what are these two doing over out on the side where you might not be able to catch that normally if you're just, honing in on the Genji action? It's like, okay, we see these two on the side, flanking or something. We can, they can choose at the right time when to go in and hone in on that action.
And talking about a macro view, the way they were explaining the minimap sounded like he was very detailed in a way that is still very simple to watch, right? Like they were saying that you're gonna be able to see things like Tracer blink, for example. So in the minimap, I imagine you're gonna see Tracer's little face or something, and then you're gonna visually see her blink in the minimap. And they were saying things like stuns, like the flashbang, for example. I imagine if McCree stun somebody in the minimap for a brief second, you're gonna see the icon of that person have like a stun debuff or something. Or it would be really neat if Zenyatta Discord, for example, would register. So whoever has a Discord, you can visually see like their little icon with the debuff in it. So if they do it this way, it's just gonna be so easy to keep track of so many things just because of the simplified top-down view they're gonna be able to get with it. It's just, I don't know, I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
I'm upset
so
you
much
didn't
like
talk
just
about the
Overwatch.
Roadhog.
Yeah. It sounds just like very reminiscent of basically like the cliff notes of what's going on. And so like if you want to do like a quick recap of like fight positioning, you can like break that down in a 2-dimensional format and just like run it through and be like, guys are here and their team shape. And like I love this because this is going to give analytics on casting for how people shape up in the fight. Not just like the verticality and like getting behind barriers and getting behind cover, but looking at it from a vertical point of view and saying, okay, now these guys are really, really close all the time. The typical formats of having a Lucio just always around, the Zenyatta, booping them out, getting the Discord, deleting them, stuff like that. And then on top of that, you've got stuff where you can just potentially always see where the flankers are every time. And you can see those guys doing their motions in a completely different area of the map, like you guys are talking. The one thing that we got in the chat here that I also was going to bring up, which is in this observer mode and the top-down dimensional thing, I think the next step is twofold. First of all, you want to get that second minimap highlight thing, even if you can just get a single image of it and download it. You can do call outs. You can say, this is the 2-dimensional setup for the map. I can look at it. I can set up things. This is how I want to move our team. You can download, you can draw on it, and you do coaching videos, like you're saying, Deathblow earlier. Like this is just super big in that aspect. And the second thing is, I think that's going to come with the in-game recording feature whenever we do get that. Because what I want is I want this 2-dimensional thing just constantly recording, even if it's not on display. Because I want that in my archives for game reviews, especially for coaching, whether it be individual or team. It's just very, very, very valuable information. But I think that transitions into the next thing that's going to be really cool, more on the observer side than on the on the coaching side, which is the smart cam that they're going to be putting on third-person view. Notoriously, third-person view right now has been really poor, only because it is mimicking all of the mouse movements of that player. So if they're doing 180 turns on Tracer, or they're doing a double spin on Genji with reflex and stuff, they're dashing everywhere at their mouse, making sure they're minutely hitting every detail. And so what happens is it's really, really janky. The screen is very erratic, just like the player screen sometimes can be. But it's even accentuated because the view is actually zoomed out further. So all of the little minute movements are hyperextended and longer. And what he's saying here is that not only are they going to be smoother and more easy to watch and like panning and changing position, but it's also going to smartly follow whatever action they are doing in the first place. So like if McCree does like a 180 flashbang, fan the hammer, 180 flashbang pop, it's going to like, it's not going to slowly miss the action. It'll actually see that and transition you into viewing that. So it's going to be really interesting how this works out in practice, because right now that's basically all we know. Until we see it in practice, there's not really a hard thing that we can say on what a third-person view is going to look like, because notoriously it's been that bad that we're pretty skeptical moving forward. At least I am personally. But what do you guys think? Let's start with Deathblow on this one.
To me, it sounds great. I mean, anything you can do to add kind of a cinematic feel into things will really up the production value and will really make, I think, the spectator experience a lot more interesting. I've always kind of wished the third person view, at least on some heroes in particular, could be used a little bit more. The ones that come to mind are Zen and Pharah. You know, those straight line projectile heroes. Like, I just love that the way it like looks down the barrel of the rocket arm on Pharah or the rocket launcher on Pharah, and follows that. Like, I don't know. It always, when they came out with it, it looked really interesting to me, and I really liked it. But they say it's just going to be a smart camera and it's just going to do all these things, though, and I'm just like, how do you smartly and fluidly flip 180 degrees, flashbang somebody and kill them? So I think there's probably still going to be kinks to it, but on the overall, I think it'll be a really interesting way for the broadcast team to kind of transition their screens instead of just jumping directly from first person on one to another. It gives them an ability, okay, let's go into third person. All right, now this person's in frame right now on this camera, and then they can kind of zip over to their third person and then move into their first person. So it's really going to be up to the broadcast team and the cameramen to kind of figure out the best ways to use all this stuff. And that's the
basically just gives them two more different screens. Like, they're just going to have the ability to make the show more dynamic, and that's kind of what the core is that we want.
Yeah. Now, a tool in the wrong hands can be dangerous, so we'll see if it. But I mean, they've done such a good job, and with what they've had available to them so far, that I do feel very confident the broadcasting teams for the Overwatch League and for the World Cup will do a fine job. So I'm very excited about this one as well.
I think so. Honestly, I think you're right. And this is mostly a tool that has been made for broadcasters, I think. The way I see it is more of a panic camera kind of thing. Like you said, I don't know how good the smart camera is going to be, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's an algorithm trying to make the best out of it. And I'm sure that with, machine learning and all this stuff, they can figure out, like, the best angles. And now that they have, like, so much footage and like a year at least of broadcasting all around the world from different people, I'm sure that the camera itself does a fine job. But the way I see it is more like, when they're broadcasting, every once in a while, they'll pan to like a camera that is just like sitting on a dead guy or just off to the side while the action is going. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen every once in a while, and then immediately you go on Reddit and people are flaming the people of the production, like, oh, this thing sucks over here, blah, blah, blah. But this is kind of like a fail-safe, right? If by some reason your cameraman gets lost, or you cannot find the action, or you're just not focused on the action at the time, because a lot of this is kind of manually being moved, right? And there is room for human error here. But this camera is just a robot that is following the action at all times, hopefully doing a good job out of it. So you can use it, like you said, in between shots, when you need to like refocus your cameraman, or people are trying to find their spot, or in a panic moment, right? Like you lost the person that you were trying to follow. You just zoom into the smart camera, bam, you're back into the action. You didn't miss anything. Your broadcast is still going good. So that I see it as a tool for them.
Yeah, I think it actually does a number of things. So I'll start with my skepticism. So in an ideal world, in a perfect world, I think this is amazing. Something that can quote unquote smartly follow the action. Like, if that actually works how we want it to and how we think it should, that's great. I just keep remembering all of those times back in the day when Mercy got 99% of the plays of the game. So like,
Yeah.
and then it was Bastion, and then it was, their algorithms are not perfect. So, and now it seems like Junkrat gets everything. So, depending on how they do their algorithm to figure out where the action is, that's gonna dictate how great it is. But I think this is actually less for the Overwatch League and even contenders. Like, I think those production teams already have more production than the game client offers. Like, they have, I saw pictures of some of the behind the scenes broadcasts. They've got like 50 screens up there, and they've got people operating and switching screens and whatnot. Like, I don't think this is there for them. I think this is for the open division tournaments so that people can start casting those. I think this is for the the small tournaments, or the up and coming broadcasters who maybe want to do a solo cast just for practice and they are just watching scrims and casting them. They can just throw this on third person the entire time.
That's a very valid point. Yeah,
and cast that. If it's actually as good as we want it to be, like, heck, you just go in as a solo person with not even anyone else, just throw it on third person and just cast that for practice. I think that would be that can be super helpful for up and coming broadcasting.
For sure, yeah. Or smaller
so productions.
Are
you offering to record and broadcast my scrims, Blevins? Is that what you're doing?
Honestly, I think like that's one of the biggest things that deterred me from wanting to do Overwatch broadcasting was like I have no want at all to ever control the camera and no, I like I said, I give Hex and ZP all the credit in the world for what they do and what they did back in the day, back before we had dedicated observers, when it was literally just Hex and ZP in their own rooms, and ZP was casting and controlling the camera like fervently. I don't know how you do it. I never wanted any part of that.
That's probably why he got hired, though.
Exactly. I mean, the talent there, it goes it's an unthanked job. So shout outs to ZP for that. But if I had something where I can just, as a complete pleb that wants to practice my broadcast, just throw it on this third person and it gives a decent enough, view of the match, like I think that's great for an up and comer.
Nice.
And I think that
I like that.
Like we were mentioning here, I'm basically gonna close on this, and then I'll tell you guys about the last bits, and we'll discuss those and move on. But this tool, it's kind of strange because this is something that normally esports shows would really focus heavily on, and people like us, Andres and I, and strategic shows wouldn't necessarily cover this to this depth. But the more you really break this down, like Blevins is saying, and even Deathblow, the more integrated this esports broadcasting and observer mode gets, the better it becomes and easier it gets for people to create content and improve other people's play. Because you're able to break things down further, you're able to identify mistakes easier, and you can actually make better calls on your positioning. If you can't see somebody, you can actually start learning player positioning patterns and play at a higher tier. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in gold or you're in bronze and you're trying to like get up on making sure you're making less mistakes, you can see where people are when they're using certain abilities. You can see where people are in relationship to the enemy team and their own team, even when you can't see them on the screen. And that's huge. Like, that's just massive. And on top of that, we got 3 more changes that are more on just this massive thing. And then there's one that's actually not listed here that I'll highlight. But there is a new automated tournament interface that they're going to be doing. So I'm guessing this is some sort of interface, UI, transition to kind of like show brackets, etc. There's also going to be a creating of instant replays during the broadcast. This is massive change. This means if something happens, even if the camera's not on it, boom, you get an instant replay and you can see what happened. That's massive, 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 big production thing for anything like observing, learning, esports, whatever, especially esports. This is the biggest thing, because what happens is you're going to see these people get dumpstered on pulse bombs a lot more often, which is going to be great.
You're never going to miss a pulse bomb.
You're never going to miss a Sombra 1 clipping after an EMP ever again. So there's that. And then there's also this thing that they were mentioning, that they're actually improving the ease of use for using the actual camera, not just the third-person camera and the smart cam, but they're improving the overall user experience for using the camera when you're using a mouse and keyboard. Because the biggest thing right now is people were using controllers or other kind of UI modifiers to kind of make the camera smooth. So there's this big camera smoothing they're adding to everything. So everything just looks like this really high quality. And if you guys, I know that my background is in video and photography, especially in video. If you don't have some sort of Steadicam or hand camera or digital stabilizing unit, it's insanely difficult to get good video shots. Even sometimes you just set it on a tripod and just pan it with a liquid head. Like the liquid head costs about $140 just to do something simple like that. And now they're giving you these high production type things for free, and the game is just amazing to me. And then the last change is probably one of the most necessary ones, where tournament games are now automatically pausing upon disconnects with players. A much needed thing for anything. And also, I would be curious to see how this is going to play into the official ruling when we finally get what they're going to do with the timeouts that are inevitably going to come with official rules for tournament matches. So let's start with Andres. Andres, what do you think of all these changes? What do you want to highlight?
I think I kind of just want to summarize a lot of them. I think that all these changes are super awesome. Definitely, we can see that they released them right before the World Cup, right before BlizzCon. I don't think these are gonna be like their BlizzCon announcements at all, but these are changes that everyone was a little bit concerned about going into the World Cup, starting the league, knowing that spectator mode wasn't quite there. And all of these announcements are basically aimed towards that, the competitive side, the viewing of the competitive side, and the what people are able to take away from it. All of them are really great. I think that these are changes that the game really, really needs, like more than a new hero, more than a new game mode or a new map or any of these things. Like, these are changes the game needs right now so that it can keep people interested in it, and bringing new people in too, right? Like, they're starting one of the biggest leagues in esports right now, and they need the viewership, and not only the viewership, but they need to be able to deliver to that audience. And yeah, all these changes are catered to that, to be able to deliver a better experience, a smoother experience. Things like pausing the game when people get disconnected, for example, go towards that too, and like making the games as fair as possible. And even though there's variables in the world and things will always like go to shit, like you and me, no, Rob, trying to do a live show. There's so many things that can go wrong and everything. And you guys know too. Yeah. You guys do a podcast as well. So just technology fails sometimes. And I'm just glad that they're working on those actively. And I'm glad that they talked about them now so that we know that going into BlizzCon, most of these are probably going to be delivered then and there. We're probably going to get to experience a lot of these during the World Cup. So I'm super excited for that.
Andres, how dare you imply that Skype might not be a perfect program?
But
overall, I really like these changes too. The instant replays is just going to be phenomenal, and even if you have to like see the mouse move over there to click it, like I think that almost might be like a boon to it. I look at like videos like the San Francisco Shocks video where like including that kind of like actual usage of the machine is being integrated into high level production stuff anyways. So I don't think it would be clunky or anything. Like I was a little worried about that at first, but the more I thought about it, I wasn't. Also, and like Blevins said, they have so many screens, you could just do that aspect of it off screen and then switch to it. But I thought one thing that was great was the automated tournament interface, which will allow the tournament organizers to go in and set up everything ahead of time. This team's going to play against this team. And I don't know how in-depth it'll be. You might be able to like build out a bracket and, kind of handle all the matchups. But especially with all these complicated color palettes and everything like that that's going on, the ability for them to go in ahead of time, set everything up, and then do test runs where they actually had like launch games, make sure everything looks right, switch sides, make sure nothing goes wrong. It should reduce a lot of the human error that is unfortunate to see and also like unavoidable completely. And when you're talking about something like Overwatch League, it stops being acceptable. It stops being understandable. Right. Like you have to be perfect with the size and the scope of what they're doing here. So safeguards and protections against that human error that I would never even in Overwatch League blame on the individual. With the old setup, now they're kind of shouldering some of that blame themselves and letting the program handle it, which I think is good because it's going to be more reliable and it should be less often that we see goofy, side switching stuff and just overlays, like the number of times they don't flip the overlay. That kind of thing should go away completely, and I'm very excited about that on the overall.
Yeah, a lot of quality of life stuff that I think. Like, I don't think we necessarily needed up until this point. Like, obviously we made it this far just fine. But like Death said, like once it comes to Overwatch League, like any sort of those blips are just not going to be acceptable. Not to the new viewers who aren't esports fans, don't know about Overwatch necessarily, not to the investors that are putting, tens of millions of dollars into this league. No one is going to be
their results.
Right. Like, us as people who've been watching since, before, closed beta and whatnot, like that, like we understand when, and people who've been in scrims, we understand when something like that happens, but like new people and people putting a ton of money in are not going to be as forgiving.
Yeah, 12 team spots just got sold for $20 million a piece. That's $240 million of cash they just got infused into their war chest here. So let's be real.
Yeah.
No more mistakes. This is the big leagues now. The one thing I will say that I don't know that I'm super wild about is the automatic pause on disconnect. I think that might end up being clunky, and I don't know that there's an alternative for it, but Andres, I've scrimmed with you in the past. When something goes wrong and a player disconnects, you don't just pause in the middle of a fight. You finish out the fight. In fact, we had a guy on our team blue screen of death in the middle of a fight yesterday, and we won the fight, and we took over the point, and we were down a guy going into it, and we had to wait. I mean, we were in control of the pause, so we could have paused it in the middle of it, but it's clunky. I've just finished the fight. Like, that's the kind of the thing. So I don't know. And also, there's those times when, like, when he blue screened of death, one of our players was like, "I think he's AFK. I think he's DC. It doesn't matter. We're going." But he was standing still. So there's still that awkward time where, maybe it would be better to pause before he actually disconnects in a lot of these cases. And I wonder if this is just going to make them stop manually pausing altogether,
Right.
And rely on that stuff. So I don't know. That's the one where it could be great. It could be exactly what's needed, or it could end up causing more problems than it fixes. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah,
I think
guess
that's
it's
one of
something we'll
those.
have to wait and see.
That's one of those problems that doesn't have a perfect solution, right? Like, unfortunately,
Correct.
like ideally that would never happen, because you're right. Like, even if it pauses immediately, that can still be bad for one of the teams, right? Let's say the Genji is able to do a flank and he jumps the Ana. Nobody has seen him and he jumps the Ana, but at that moment somebody DCs and the game pauses, right? Even though he jumped the Ana, now the enemy team has this whole pause to think about what they're gonna do, right? Like, now they realize, okay, Genji's here, and instead of having that surprise element when they go back into the game, now everybody's gonna know he's there. They're gonna react accordingly. Anna's gonna shoot the grenade to her feet. Everyone's gonna rush to her. But maybe this wouldn't have happened if the Genji had that surprise element kind of thing. So, like, this is just an example, but like I said, it's not a perfect thing. There's always gonna be hiccups, and I think if somebody disconnects, there's always gonna be that shadow of doubt if things would have gone a different way if he hadn't disconnected and stuff. But I think it's just unavoidable, and I guess this is a better solution than letting it keep going and playing the game at a disadvantage, because then that's clearly like, okay, well, now they're at a disadvantage. Before that, it's kind of, up in the air.
Yeah, as long as they use both, I think it'll generally be good, because I still think the fastest way to react to an issue is pause the game when a player throws both their hands up in the air on stage and is like, "Oh, I can't do anything." Like, that's still probably going to be the fastest way to pausing,
Right.
and getting things reset.
Especially if there's a medical emergency too, because that doesn't solve for any of that thing. If it's a disconnect, like if somebody's got major carpal tunnel, just like destroying their finger, like they can't just. Yeah, I mean, if they had some sort of quick release on your mouse, so you could just like yank, that would make sense. But besides that, they're not going to do that sort of thing. This is not a controller with a quick release. This is like mouse and keyboard. So, anyways, I think we need to table this because we got a lot of other stuff we want to cover here. But I will say the quick one, and maybe we can do a broad brush of like one opinion on the Kaplan Blue Post. But we have season 6 is actually just ended a couple hours ago. And October 28th is when it has ended, and on the 31st it will reopen for season 7, 5 p.m. Pacific or 0 UTC November 1st. So if you're on East Coast, I believe this is 8 p.m., 9 p.m., something like that.
Yeah, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
8 o'clock our time.
Yeah, because this is just before daylight time starts in November. So you guys can go and enjoy your new season 6, and remember that the seasons are shorter now. They're about 2 months, and this off season is usually about 3 days, which is great. And let's go into the toxicity and mercy discussion on the Blue Post here from Jeff Kaplan just before BlizzCon. And important to note on the developer update is that this is only the beginning. This is the big major thing before BlizzCon. And like the fact that we are getting such huge news before a major news announcement day means that this Blizzard announcement for Overwatch and Overwatch League and all of the stuff that's going to be coming on the stage in just about a week is got to be ginormous. You know what I mean? Like if this is like the little snack we're getting before the storm, it's just like, holy, buckle up, boys. We're gonna have a lot of news coming next week. So I'm really excited about that. And on the toxicity and mercy thing, so basically the mercy gig is fairly quick. He basically says there's a lot of people still talking about the state of mercy and the rework that's happened twice now, I guess you could say, and still think that shifting an ultimate ability to a cooldown ability is really, really difficult for them to balance. And also right now is still probably too powerful. So they're going to be rolling out something in the PTR here in a few days or a couple weeks, depending on what Blizzard language you'd like to interpret this as. But it will be coming. They're experiencing with a couple toned down versions of that ability. So it sounds like the target here is no longer messing with GA, no longer messing with beams, no longer messing with any of that, but it's actually working through the resurrection ability itself. So they're trying to balance that. So my guess in prediction here is that it's just going to be about another 10 seconds, maybe even longer for how long the cooldown is. And they're probably going to be taking away the charge with Valkyrie in my estimation. So those are just the two things that I would say that they might think. There's a lot of people that even think that they should just delete the ability altogether, but that's for another discussion. And we've got a lot of other things we want to predict for BlizzCon. So let's keep moving. The next thing that we'll actually open up for discussion here is what is going on with the toxicity and the adjustment for competitive play. He says there's no immediate changes to discuss right now, but they're closely studying issues, perceived problems on the system, and keeping an eye on improvement. Along with that, they're looking at matchmaking specifically for this competitive system to improve issues that our players are seeing, especially at the high ends from the skill rating spectrum. There's long-term and short-term plans. So that means short-term is within the month, most likely. Within November, there's going to be probably something rolling out. And long-term means any, 3 months, I would say. They're going to try to roll something out within that stage time. And they want to make sure that they can get people or these changes in a faster pace with waiting for major milestones. So that means they're trying to give us more updates on how they're going to roll out the competitive system. And a lot of that honestly can happen because the competitive system seasons are shorter. So if they're restricting things per season, then the seasons can end sooner and the changes can roll out sooner thereof as a result. The third big focus is that toxicity. We cannot discuss, and this is a lot of what we do, we cannot and will not discuss publicly. The more players understand about how these systems work, the more they will be able to game them. So that's why they're not able to tell us as much. But he says the key phrase here is that there are a lot of improvements in this area and a number of action players continues to rise. The more we restore your faith in the system, the more hope you will have to use these systems. And I think that's a big point because a lot of people have felt the distrust with the system and they don't really have a whole lot of faith in doing so because the previous system didn't work. So they're trying to convince people, please use the system. It will work now. So please go use the system. It'll continue to work. Try to build your faith in the new system. He says, I swear to you, it does work and we're really focused on improving it, but we need your help. So what do you guys think about this? I'm going to kick this to Blevins here because he's been quiet for a while.
Yeah, so I think the toxicity thing, I'm coming from a place of high gold, up to mid plat. That's where I live. That's the spawning pool of toxicity and trolls and throwers and just the cesspool that people talk about. And okay, yes, there are some games where I have levers. There's some games where people are toxic, but I think honestly, I bet if you looked at the stats only and took all the, social psychology out of it and how people actually feel about it, it's probably not as bad as people think. So I agree 100%. Don't tell people what you're doing with it. Just act on it. And I don't think there's a way that you can accurately change people's minds about how they feel when they lose a game where someone left or was a troll or something. Could they ban every troll? Maybe. I don't think that Like I don't know. Like I don't think that there's a good way to do that without like banning a bunch of people or like sending them to, troll hell where they're like on their own server
Blizzard
where only the
jail.
trolls play. Yeah, exactly. Like where they're not like banned from playing the game, but they only get queued up with other trolls. And like, does that help? Like they're the same people that go and like the people that troll in games are the same people that go on Reddit and talk about how they got trolled in games. It's like there's no there's no solution here unless you like completely like wipe them off of the game. I don't know.
Yeah, it's cute and all to blame Blizzard for the toxicity problem, but it's a community problem and it's community driven and it needs to be community enforced to a certain extent. Like you don't get to complain about what's going on if you're not like reporting people that are being toxic in the game. Like you don't get to complain that the system doesn't work if you don't use the system. You don't get to complain that there's toxicity in the game if you are toxic in the game. But that's not how Reddit works. Everybody's anonymous. Everybody gets the benefit of the doubt. Nobody is toxic, but yet everybody else is toxic. And that's, I think, a decent perception problem here. I don't blame Blizzard for this one. I blame humanity. We've given the trolls the power to have this much of an impact in the things that we like. And the only way it ever is going to go away is if we all as a community decide it's not okay. And everybody in your game reports a troll when they show up, and that's not, hey, the guy played Symmetra in this game and I don't like that hero selection. Hey, neither do I, but I don't get to complain about that, right? Because he's a Symmetra main and he's the same rank as me. So I need to do some math here and figure out that he's in some way okay to be doing it. And it's just about toxicity and directing anger and hate towards people for whatever reason. That's the thing that needs to be removed from the game, not the rest of it, right? And at this point, as far as the rest of it goes, I'd be almost open to just trying like a name your role when you queue up. Yeah. So I'm queuing up as a support, and now so you get 2 supports, 2 DPS, and go, and 2 tanks and go, and that would help kind of balance out the player base a little bit too. I don't know. At this point, I'm open to trying it because I hit Masters day 1 of this active season, and I never attempted the GM climb because there's too much negativity. And I mean, also, like, I have like a 5-hour a day after work, so I work 9 hours a day. I come home and I coach for 3 hours and then I scrim for 2 hours, and like, so I'm exhausted. I don't have a ton of time to play comp anymore, but at the same time, the limited time I have to solo queue or play a game, I go to Rocket League. I go to something else and take a break from it. And part of that reason is because of all this toxicity, and I don't want to be angry when I play video games. So I just play a game where I can group up with my friends and take my party into it. I don't know. It's a hard question to answer, but I think everybody's wrong and nobody's wrong at the same time.
Competitive system. Andres, what do you think here on the competitive like adjustments here that they're talking
the way I see it is this message, the way I interpret it is we are to the brim with work right now. Like, I think they are fully saturated over there, and there's a lot of things that they want to get to, but these are basically Jeff Kaplan saying, hey guys, we hear you, we're working on them, we're trying to get them out as fast as possible. We don't have a lot of details on it. For example, the mercy changes, the competitive toxicity stuff. It's something that I think got out of hand a little bit in the past few months, and it's something that they've had to address. They were not necessarily planning on addressing it so soon, but it's kind of like a problem they can't ignore anymore, right? And part of it, their system does need some improvements. They have acknowledged that. They have acknowledged that their system hasn't been doing the most that it could be doing, and people have lost faith in the system. And he's trying to be like, guys, we're working on it, we're making it better, but we need you guys to keep using it. So yeah, if you're in the game, you see somebody who's truly just being obnoxious or insulting or just making the game bad for everyone. And by that, I don't mean picking Torbjorn or Hanzo when they're still trying to win. I mean, like, literally throwing the game and being just a bad person in general. Report them, and like, hopefully the system will get better over time. They'll add more things to it. But right now it seems like they have so much stuff on their plate, right? Like, they have this, they have BlizzCon coming up. They have Overwatch League. I'm sure that all of their artists right now are like trying to come up with all of the skins, putting all that into the game, making it ready. So I don't know. I think that they have a lot in their plate that they're trying to push out as soon as possible. And we've known that the team has grown quite a bit, almost to 120, 130 people.
Mhm.
He said that was the last
It's a big
number.
team.
Yes, it's a big team compared to what they started with. And I'm sure they have a lot of pressure too, right? Like all of their Overwatch League division is probably coming to them like, hey, we need this ready. We need this for that. Working on the spectator mode.
Deadline's supposed to be insane.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of pressure on them. And then on top of that, having to go to Reddit and reading everyone like, hey, your game sucks because everyone's shouting at me kind of thing. So they're in a tough spot, but I think they're making the best out of it.
Yeah, my working theory is honestly that Blizzard is working in Team 6, I believe. Yeah, Team 6 or no, this is Team 6. They're working really, really hard on a lot of really cool things for Overwatch League, especially. They're also working on these observer changes. And if you remember way back a couple months ago when we had Scott Mercer on, they're saying they want to get a game browser in this game. Like not just the custom game browser, but like a game observer browser where you can like go back and record games. And they also want to have an in-game match history. Like those are things that they want to put in the game. They have no timeline on because right now that they can tell the public. But what happens is they have this huge thing that they want to do in this timeline, and they're not giving it to us as the listener base. So the longer something that we know that we want, that we're asking for goes without being something, the more people are just like, why are you not doing this? And then when you tell people that you're going to be working on or you are currently working on something, the longer that you after you say that until it comes into fruition, the longer and the faster people get frustrated that it's not here yet. And then on top of that, you have all of these things where Blizzard's currently progressing, and then you have monkey wrenches in the system. So you have player toxicity, you have the skill ranking, you have the competitive system's too long, and the updates are not as frequent, and you're basically just compiling these things in community requests that are basically like these humongous roadblocks for them to have to like code in and put in the game. And we're not really Blizzard apologists here, but we're basically kind of giving you the real reason of why these things aren't here right now. And on top of that,
it's good to put ourselves in their shoes too, right? And seeing why they're bringing us all this stuff.
They have like this massive perfectionist polish that they always put into everything to make sure that when you get it, it's good. And that doesn't apply to balance, because balance is something that everyone struggles with, no matter the game you're playing. So balance out the window when it comes to the competitive system, the matchmaking, the connectivity, the toxicity. There's a lot of these things are just systems that they're working on, that they're trying to make it happen, and they don't want to give it to you half baked. I mean, if the system wanted it half baked, they go play PUBG because it's just alpha. So if you guys want a half baked system that doesn't work, that's fun. You can go do that. But
I wish it were up to half. It's way less than half.
Yeah, it's very, very beta feeling, if it makes any sense. But I think
it is in beta. It is in beta. You gotta give them that.
Early access.
Yeah. All right, guys. So let's talk about BlizzCon. So Blevins, you are the king of the final hour of getting tickets and scrounging around for hobo room settings and getting all set up for BlizzCon. But we're happy that we're gonna go hang out and boo some teams at the Overwatch games together, and maybe even see a Calm Before the Storm. It'll be good. But I think what I'd like to do is we're going to branch our category. We're going to do BlizzCon predictions in 4 major things. So the first one is going to be what's in the loot box. There's a gigantic loot box stage that's going to happen at BlizzCon on the first or second day. I can't actually remember, but I'm pretty sure it's on the second day. And to quote a movie, what's in the box? What's in the box? We're going to do that. And then what is the major announcements that they're going to reveal? And to kind of go along with that, you can go with features. You can go with esports features or observer things. We've already got revealed some of those things that are going to happen before. And maybe even just like what's coming to the game. What's the next step? And then the last one would be your World Cup group stages winners. We won't necessarily need to worry about much more than that, because it's such a volatile group stage that a lot of the finals, I think, is going to be decided there. You're going to see these huge plays, these huge teams just really swing games. But let's start there. So while you guys are working on that, I don't have any predictions because I'm not as into the World Cup as far as you guys maybe are. I'm more into like waiting and twiddling my thumbs until OWL.
You can probably make an educated guess, though.
Teams, but
you can probably make an educated guess of who's gonna win it.
Yeah, I don't have them pulled up right now, and I want to let you guys have a chance. So I'll do my esports predictions at the end and just do the other stuff here.
All right.
All right. All right. So here's my big thing. So what's in the box? What's in the box? I have them written down so that they're timeless, and I can be really wrong later. So the announcement for the loot box stage, and I wrote this before the announcement of the color palette, so keep that in mind. I am saying that all of the announced OWL teams that are currently announced, maybe even they're going to announce all of them at BlizzCon. I think that all of the digital merch and all of the physical merch are going to be in the loot box. You're going to see what the merch looks like. It's going to be a first look. That's what I think is in the loot box. And then maybe some free codes that they'll give people at BlizzCon as a surprise, a digital code stuff, whatever.
That would be so sweet.
What is also going to be there? I also think that just the big features. The big features is they're going to announce the new ranked system with matchmaking and kind of the 2.0 of what's coming for matchmaking. Because what he said in this system is he mentioned a lot of the matchmaking stuff that's in the short term. I think they're going to tell us the short term and maybe even tell us the long term and give us a date. I think that that's probably in the thing. And I know that a lot of people are also saying new hero, new map, both, maybe 2 new heroes. I know, Blevins, you said that a couple times on your show. But I think that there's going to be 1 new hero. It's going to be a new support, and it will be a primary healing support. I'm getting super specific on this. And on top of that, I think that not only are we getting a new support hero that is a primary support, I think that this hero is somebody we have not seen yet in any teasers whatsoever. It's not the Omnic guy. It's not the little chipmunk, or not chipmunk, the little chimpanzee that we think could have been one with the Winston thing. I think it's going to be somebody totally different. And then, let's see. Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be Hammond either. I think it's going to be something totally different than what any of us have seen.
Better not be, because I'm going to be a Hammond main.
2 more Hammond main. I think we're going to get 1 to 2 new Overwatch League teams, whether it be branding, or we get all of the brands, or we get rosters. I think one combination of that is going to happen at BlizzCon. I think that maybe the last couple teams are going to get announced as far as the branding is concerned at BlizzCon.
Well, I don't mean to trample on that one, but all those will be announced on Tuesday. Tuesday is the deadline. They have to announce
Tuesday?
on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they have to announce the branding on Tuesday, or the rosters have to be finalized on Tuesday.
I don't think they have to announce the branding on Tuesday. There might be some holdouts there. But honestly, like, you don't want to announce your roster. Like, I don't know. You want the branding to be tied to all those announcements, right?
Yeah.
So if you're releasing your roster, you're going to want your brand out already.
Yeah. The last thing here I wrote down is match history and game recording free cam. So this is before the announcement that we got on the developer update. So
nice.
I don't know if this is something that they're going to kind of expand on as the next step, but this is what I think could happen. I think match history is a lot closer than we think, because last time we talked with Scott, that seemed like a really big thing that they wanted to put in the game, regardless of a timetable, because he didn't give us any reasonable timetable at all. But that's my predictions for BlizzCon. I don't care who takes it next. Who's ready?
You guys go.
I mean, I'm ready because you stole mine.
Classic 8th grade.
I think it's going to be the merch from the Overwatch League teams. I really think that's going to be the biggest thing that's in there. I don't know about the in-game stuff. I don't know that that's all ready, but I mean, they're doing such a good job. Like, clearly all the brands are, I think, already decided. They're just not announced. So they're probably could even be waiting on the art team from Blizzard to finish the skins and stuff like that.
They have all of the players from the roster inside the loot box right now. They're just all waiting there.
All the players are in there. They're just like inside
the entire league is in that loot box.
Yeah, and I mean, that would be my guess for what's in the loot box. And then I guess I would think like new hero. I mean, they kind of said there's not like plans to have a new hero announced at BlizzCon. Like they already kind of tried to squash that dream, but he didn't also actually squash it. Like it wasn't a definitive thing where he's like, no, it's not. There won't be one. He goes, I don't know that it's ready or something like that. Like
He said it's not going. There's a new hero coming soon, but not as soon as you think. Is what or something like cryptic like that.
That makes me want to say that
I'd say we're getting it.
Okay. Right. But I don't think we're even going to get an announcement for our hero, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah, I think they learned their lesson on the Sombra thing and all that stuff. Like, they're not going to give us a long lead time from an announcement of a hero to it's in the game, at least on PTR. But, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I think the loot box is going to be mostly about the esports merch for the most part.
What about you, Blev?
Okay, so I know at least one thing that's going to be in that loot box. Me, because I'm going to sneak up on stage before the presentation and climb in and literally be inside. No,
in Dr. Dead Respect or whatever.
Yeah, in Doc Pool. Like,
Dead
I'm just
rights.
going to walk around. I really should bring this costume. But, so I don't know. You guys were a little bit conservative. I wanted to go more pie in the sky.
Oh,
so,
go for it, dude.
Okay, so here's the biggest possible thing. It's literally just PUBG, but with Overwatch heroes and abilities.
Battle
and
Royale Overwatch?
Yes, Overwatch BR. That would be that I think that
not even a map for it, Blevins.
No, there's not a map. They make a new map. That's what's inside the box. It opens up and then
Do it
all
in
the
Six in the
It's
box.
just a giant Battle Royale map.
Here's the thing. They're like, okay, everyone at BlizzCon, you're the first round right now. We've got okay. That's the biggest. That's the definitely not going to happen. Biggest possible thing. This is here's another one that sounds pie in the sky, but actually based on all the stuff that we've been getting with the esports developer update and the spectating client and the wanting to bring new people in who aren't esports fanatics or Overwatch fanatics. My prediction is VR watch. And by that I mean the ability to watch Overwatch matches in VR in some capacity, whether it's like with a VR headset where you're following around the observer, or you can walk around the map. Like they have stuff like that for Dota 2. They've announced nothing and given us no reason to believe that they have a VR partnership whatsoever. But that's the type of thing that's like, I don't know. A lot of people like it kind of shifted a little bit from VR, but in terms of like esports viewing in VR to like the Bitcoin and like cryptocurrency, like that's the new hot trend. But like VR is still there, and like I could see like inside the box is just a bunch of like Overwatch League, $19.99, like $19.99 like headsets that they're going to be selling to like be able to view Overwatch League
Interesting.
games. I don't know. I think that could be something. Did I have anything else? Oh, I'm hoping that they bring back Crusher 99 in some capacity. Like it was in the original trailer, and then everyone forgot about it after a month, except for me. I'm just waiting for Crusher 99 to show up. I hope
that jersey.
That's the life of a star, man. You climb to the top, and then people forget about you.
I know. I see that, but if they have a Crusher 99 Overwatch League jersey there, and I can buy it, I don't care how much it is. I'm buying it.
God,
nice.
Your credit card, Blevins.
He will be filing for bankruptcy when he gets back. 100%. I expect a phone call.
Now.
All right, for predictions, I'm gonna go with inside the loot box is gonna be Jeff Kaplan. Maybe in a Speedo.
Best loot box ever.
With the Overwatch Team League announcement on the Speedo.
There you go. Overwatch League Speedo on Jeff Kaplan. And if you
Add
win
it to the list of things I'm buying.
and if you win the Battle Royale held at Blizzard that Blevins was talking about, you get a romantic dinner with Jeff. In his Speedo.
No, you gotta wrestle with death.
Prepare for that.
No, he's pretty buff, man. I don't know if I want to wrestle with him. No, but in all seriousness though, I think that inside the loot box, I could see the Overwatch League stuff coming out. Like when you said all the merch that's coming out and the announcement of basically all of the jerseys for the Overwatch characters and stuff, I could totally see it being like that. The announcement of the new loot boxes or league boxes, Overwatch League loot boxes. I guess that's what they would call
OWL
them.
loot boxes. That
Yeah,
could be pretty cool.
and those would be like exclusive, like just like uniforms and skins, maybe some
How to buy
sprays,
them.
all based on the Overwatch League and like their branding and stuff. So I could totally see like them just announcing all of the brands, all of the jerseys, all of the colors, and then being like, you can now these loot boxes are available for you to purchase in game, like right now, kind of thing. I could see that happening. Major announcements, I don't know about the hero. I truly think that they're not gonna announce a hero just because of what I said earlier. I think they're packed to the brim with work, and right now it would just be too much to add another hero. Like I don't think they're ready to worry about balancing and adding another hero to the meta when like they're already having to do so many balance changes. They're trying to like change the reporting system, added some toxicity filters in there, and also get Overwatch League ready. I think that right now their main priority is going to be Overwatch League, and this is going to be super centered on all that. I wouldn't doubt if like they announce some more things about the Overwatch League, maybe some more spectator stuff, more features regarding to that. I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe announce like a big one, like you said, like being able to spectate competitive matches from your house, or even like what you said, like with the VR. Like I wouldn't see that being too far off. I don't know if they're quite there yet, but if they meet us in the middle where like you don't have to watch them in VR, but like at least you can access them from your client, I think that something like that would be super
Watching the
awesome.
games
And
in
I would
client
flip my chair at BlizzCon if they announced that. So that's what I'm
You
hoping
can flip
for.
my chair at BlizzCon.
And as far as
Our-
World Cup stage winners, I'm going to put my prediction here. It's not a far-fetched one. I'm going to go with South Korea, with US being a close second.
That's impossible because of how the group stages work.
Oh,
they're facing
right.
the top
They're
eight.
facing each other,
in
right?
The first round.
Oh, damn it.
First round.
Well, then South Korea it is.
Well,
Hey, I
let's
want
do
I
this,
want the
Andres.
US
What
to
are
beat
you-
South Korea
top
as
four?
much as possible, as much as you guys. I do.
Do you want us to pick each of the semifinal matches here, or each of the top 8 matches?
Yeah, let's pick a semifinalist. Like we got UK, Sweden, Canada, Australia, China, France, US, South Korea. Pick your top 4.
I can start us off here, since it sounds like
Go.
Andres might need to look at it.
I mean, yeah, I
I'm
need some
gonna
time.
I'm going to take Sweden in the first one here. I just think, this is a big group of guys. I mean, Tavik and Chipsagen right there, we can kind of stop the conversation at that point.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously, Zebo, Swoosh, Snillo, Manitin, all really, really solid players. I think a lot of these guys have experience together and are comfortable with each other. And I just think, irrespective to their position, I think Tavik and Chips are very likely to be number 1 for their roles. So I think I'm going to give them the edge there, although UK is super confident. So that should be a phenomenal match to watch. Also, give me Australia over Canada. I think that the cohesiveness of using blank esports, essentially their entire roster, as their team is going to help Australia quite a bit. I think they're an underrated team. And I expect them to surprise people and advance into the top 4. China versus France. That one's a little tough. Obviously, it's hard to vote against Rogue here, but I'm gonna. I'll take China.
Here's one more thing that you should know about China. There's been a letter that they submitted to Blizzard because apparently like 2 or 3 of their main players of their team got their visas denied. And they're going to have to come with like some substitutes. So they're not coming with their full roster, like their full original roster. I'm sure that all the players in it are still good, but it's not their main roster. So I don't know if that might cause some problems for them there.
I wasn't sure on the reasoning on that. I knew they were changing the roster up, but I honestly just thought it was like they wanted to. And I thought it was a little
Yeah,
weird
it was
that
a
they were
visa
allowed to.
problem, unfortunately for them.
But Yeah, if it's visa issues, I'll flip that then. I'll let that change my vote, and I'll go with France here to win that round. And then, I mean, anybody that listens to High Noon Podcast knows I'm not afraid to pick the underdog. So give me USA over South Korea. They're going to take them down. South Korea's roster is at least half is lunatic high. They got 8-0'd by GC Busan at the Apex Finals. These guys, I don't think, are very focused on current patch Overwatch. So I think the U.S. is going to be able to come out. They've got a solid coach in Kai. We just talked to him. They were scheduling scrims back when we were doing that interview and starting to get things back into World Cup gear. And I think these players are going to be kind of on a high. You know, the South Korea, everybody knows those guys in South Korea are in the Overwatch League. We've known for a while, but these guys are going to be coming in with their announcements. The home crowd, I thought, was a big factor. And I mean, this is, if there's ever been a good guys versus bad guys, USA versus, like, they're the Russia of, I don't know, like in movies.
Of our generation.
Esports is Russia. So we've got to go in and take them down. I think it's a big deal. I think there's a lot of hype for it. So give me the corn dogs. I mean, the United States team to take down South Korea here.
I'll tell you that this year the U.S. team does look so much stronger. Like the U.S. team, like is super solid. The times I've seen them play, having Sinatra and having Jake in it, the offense feels so strong right now.
And Raucus is a
Cool Matt and Jake together.
Yeah.
Can that possibly ever lose a match? I don't think so.
I don't know, man. Raucus and Adam together is devastating.
Yeah.
Those two guys can frag, man. Those guys are dangerous.
Yeah, Adam's a beast. For sure.
All right, Blevins, go for it, buddy.
Okay, I'm going with Sweden. I'll never not pick Tavik/Pluppy in a match. That's just not going to happen. Canada, Australia, like, I don't know. I originally picked Canada, but thinking like how fragmented Canada is and how, like, if Australia can keep that momentum from the original World Cup berth that got them to BlizzCon, like if they can keep that going, that's going to be huge. They're not going to have the crowd behind them like they did in Australia. They might have it against Canada, like they might have the crowd for them against Canada, but it's not going to be as big. That one's my true toss up where I don't know who I want to pick. I could go either way on that.
It's super
I originally
close,
picked Canada though, because like Mangachu, but he so China versus France, like I'm not gonna, like, it's Rogue, like that's all you need to, like, I don't care if it's Rogue, like I would pick Rogue versus Miraculous Youngsters. I would pick Rogue over Miraculous Youngsters if it was the entire Miraculous Youngsters roster in a LAN setting. Like I would pick Rogue in that match. So I'm picking France. And then, like, so we talked to Jake about like literally the day after the bracket was announced that USA was going to have to face South Korea in the first round. And we're like,
oh yeah,
what are your chances? How do you feel about that? And he's like, honestly, this is when we wanted them, because South Korea is so good at finding and exploiting the weaknesses that a team shows on a given day. So like they're going to be able to see the film from USA. They're going to be able to see, you know, what strategies they're running, where they're weak. Their best chance is when they're fresh, and like they're taking it super seriously, which is awesome. And there's going to be at least one bearded fat guy booing the hell out of South Korea when they come out. And I know the cheering is going to be there. I'm hoping I can get at least a little bit of a section for booing. Hopefully we don't get kicked out of the venue. But like, and like this is going to be on the big stage. This is going to be in the arena. So like the original arena is loud as hell. I can only imagine that when that USA versus South Korea match is packed, and
it's going to be packed for sure.
It's going to be completely packed. And if we can get at least some people in there that can start the boo train, like if that whole arena is booing, like they've never felt anything like that. There's no way that they're ready.
I don't know. Sometimes those South Koreans look like they have the concentration of a Zenyatta monk, dude. Like they're just like sitting there, like razor sharp focus, doing their strategies.
I don't doubt that, but like having played high school basketball in a school that really took it seriously and had a packed like gym, like I could zone that out. But then when you go to like the regionals and you're in an actual arena and there is a like crowd of people booing you, like it starts to get to you. Like
That is
It is
true.
his next level. It is the okay, the Apex stage is big and can get fans in there and whatnot, but like in the arena, it is going to be a whole nother level of
It's gonna be
fan
a sound
involvement.
barrel. Yeah.
They're used to attention. They're not used to negative attention.
That's
They're used
true,
to
that's true.
fanboys
Just the
and girls
fangirls.
screaming
Right.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
trying to
They
boost
don't
them.
know the
They're not
fear
used to.
of being booed.
They don't,
And,
they
like,
don't know
they're
the
not
good
used to-
old-fashioned USA way.
They're not used to the fused power of Omnic Lab and High Noon sending all the negative vibes at the stage.
And I've got to imagine
We're gonna
that
call your
people-
buddy Zenyatta to deal with
Yeah.
you because you're gonna
Yeah.
need some Zen after this.
I got to imagine that even if people are leery about booing, if they see Deadpool disrespect up there leading the charge for the booing, I'm gonna be able to get some people, and then once you get enough, it's just hive mind, and it will. We're
And
gonna get
All
there.
it's
you
not
have to
only-
do is
not
get
only
guy in
the-
the onesie to boo once.
Not
Just
only
get
the
guy in
booing
onesie.
though,
Exactly.
but the cheering for the US too, right? Like that has a huge effect on
yeah.
it too. Just like when the US makes a good move
Right.
and like all the support they're gonna get, that's a huge thing. And it's such a real thing. Like a good example of it is here in Atlanta, we got the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and our Atlanta soccer team has been playing here. And they're a pretty decent soccer team. When they go to other cities, they do well. But when they play here, like the support for the Atlanta team is so big here at the stadium. Like they'll pack the stadium with like 50, 60,000 people just for Atlanta. And like when teams come here to play, they get destroyed. Like this season, like some teams were like 8-0 or like 6-1, stuff like that. Scores that you never really see in soccer.
Never
And
see that in
I'm
soccer.
sure it's because of that, like the huge pressure. Like when they come play over here, they just get like crushed down to the ground. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, the momentum swings are definitely really large. All right, I'm gonna weigh in here. You guys ready? So, I'm actually kind of like Blevins for Sweden, UK. One does not simply vote against Chips Hagen. You just don't. Like swoosh, Chip, Tavik, later, guys. Sorry, UK. And also, there's a couple other things that I won't discuss in this podcast for why I don't like United Kingdom, but I'm not a big United Kingdom fan. So, second thing, on paper, I'm looking at teams. I think Canada actually is going to just do really well in this game and probably win. But who will I be cheering for is Australia, because Australia beat Japan, and that game was dog champ as I will get out. And Australia is also repping Oceanic or APAC region, and that's where I'm living in right now. And so I got to rep my area. So I'm going to root for Australia for the finals. If they make it, I'm going to root for them unless USA is there, because that's my freaking passport. So suck it. But, the next one is I'm actually going to vote for China. I think China is extremely underrated. I think all of the Chinese players, regardless if they have any sort of team synergy, for the exact reason of the success for United States in all of their games and the hodgepodge roster there, we have equal, like as much as we understand United States in esports and in the World Cup as a whole, and all of the players and how skilled they are, it's the dichotomy of how much we know about them is equal to how much we don't know about China. Because nobody's really monitoring this. We don't know any idea of their skill. And they have, if you look at the average SRs, just as high, it's still there. Again, you can't monitor that, but that is one maybe like what's it called? Smoke signal or something that might actually be a real deal. And also, I think that there is a huge mental barrier that is like smog over France after the big news of Rogue not making it to OWL. I think that mental thing is going to be it's not going to be the deciding factor, but I think it will be a factor. And I think that for that reason, and China, even regardless of the things, I think that the guys that are disappointed that they're not going may be outweighed by the three guys that are going and are super hyped that they're on the roster now, and they're going to be able to prove themselves in a really, really big way. I think that's going to speak volumes for their team to win this. And then the last up is I will be rooting for USA. But whether they win, whether they lose, that's the game to watch. as the finals right there. As far as I'm
Yeah, I
concerned.
feel like
And
that this is gonna be a great kickoff with that game, South Korea versus the U.S. That's gonna be so hype.
Is it just me,
Yeah,
or
and-
do we not want to let him wuss out and not make an actual prediction?
No. I'm
Tell us
voting,
who you're
I'm
rooting
voting for
for.
USA to win the match. USA is
Okay.
gonna win that match.
Okay.
And then if you want to go further, I think that if USA wins the match like they're supposed to, then they're gonna dumpster China, and it's not gonna be a thing. But I will even say this for Deathblow, because he's gonna like this. I will say China's gonna 3-0 France. I'm gonna go that far. And then I'll even say that Australia is going to go full game 7 against Canada. And then whoever wins the Canada-Australia match is going to lose to Sweden. I think that's probably the next thing. And then Andres,
sound
you're up
predictions?
last.
Yeah.
Andres, you're up last, buddy.
All right, I'm gonna do it quick because we're running a little bit out of time. I'm gonna go with Sweden from UK and Sweden. I'm gonna go with Canada, also between Canada and Australia. I'm gonna go with France between China and France. I'm gonna go, unfortunately, with South Korea. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I want to see the US win. I know. I'm gonna take all the booze. I'm gonna take all the
See how
booze.
hard it is to do anything. You
want to change your vote now?
I've been crushing the ground. No, but seriously, if the US wins, I'm gonna be the first one to be super happy and hype. I'm taking on my shirt, I'm throwing it around, but I'm going with the historic facts for now.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, Andres has got some new news that he's no longer going to be a part of Omnic Lab. So
I feel a little bad. We just came on the show and booed him off the pit in the silence. We're not allowed to talk anymore.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for the episode number 76. And I'm glad that you enjoyed a little Halloween Zomnic with a little bit of noon in your diet this week. But we're going to close out the show with some iTunes reviews. We got one iTunes review from Lion3Y3 from USA. Thank you for doing that. If you guys want to support our show or High Noon podcast, you guys can do that on iTunes. It's literally the best way to support both of our shows is to leave us a 5-star iTunes review there and let us know what you think. We also love those iTunes reviews so that we get a direct line in the feedback, because those are the things that are not just something that we read and we appreciate, but those are something that everyone that downloads something in iTunes, which is the most downloads that you're going to get in the podcasting realm, where people can go and view it and see and make a judgment call whether they're going to actually join on, and it improves your search results. The next thing we're going to do is our patrons. We got a couple people to thank on the diamond level. We have just these guys that are continually doing some heavy lifting to help get me from Japan to through crazy train stations and 14-hour flights to get to BlizzCon, and I cannot thank you enough to get there. And it's going to be a dream come true, and I'm really excited to be sleep deprived for 5 days in a row, and it's going to be great. But these guys are Chris DePlaya, Ginger Sasquatch, which is like my favorite name ever, Good Apollo, Lysome Magic, Not Muad'Dib, RC Crispy, Ricky Ticky, Sketchy Nonsense Podcast, Silverback, Tragic Zach, and Trinium. Thank you guys so much, along with our brand new diamond sponsor, Great Root Bear. That is also a really great pun. So I got to thank you guys so much for that. And we're looking forward to potentially meeting a couple of you. I know actually Good Apollo is going to be at BlizzCon and has his wheels there too. So we may be taking his money and his car by the end of BlizzCon. I don't know. Depends on how crazy it gets. But thank you guys so much for your support. If you want to support our show, it's over at patreon.com/Omnic Lab, and that's the best way to support us financially if you want to help us improve the show, get us to events, etc., as well as High Noon. Yours is, I believe it's patreon.com/High Noon Podcast, right? It's the full name.
Yep.
Okay. And so that's where you can go support their show, and also a Blevins credit card as a direct line so that he can get all this sweet stuff for the show and rip High Noon. But you guys can find us on pretty much anything, and I can say this definitely for the High Noon guys as well. You can find their show pretty much anywhere and everywhere. Just go to Blevins. It's Blevins. I'll have you guys plug your individual stuff after this, but basically twitter.com Facebook.com, Patreon, Twitch, YouTube, all of those things. You can find them. Both of our sites have merch. Just go to the website, hidingpodcast.com or omniclab.com. That's where you want to go. For the extended show notes, if you want to see some of the stuff, you can see all of the links and stuff on the website. And I believe this is also going to be uploaded to the High Noon Podcast, and they're going to do another addendum for extended esports coverage. You're going to definitely want to cover that in your podcast feed, so please go sub to them today. Andres, that's it for the show. Where can people find just your stuff?
You can personally find me on Twitter at iPlayGames, and you can also find me on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/iPlayMusic.
Okay, and let's kick it to Roadhog, aka Deathblow. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find all my links. Just head right over to the website, highnoonpodcast.com. There's letters and numbers and all my stuff, and Blevins makes fun of me, so I won't say it out loud.
I do. You need a calculator in order to find his Twitter.
The hyperlink will be in the show notes for those of you that really don't like that sort of thing. Blevins?
Yeah, best place to find me is on Twitter at @the_Blevins. You can also all the links to everything is on highnoonpodcast.com, especially the High Noon Podcast Discord server, which has been getting pretty sweet lately. Gotta say, we've been getting some good stuff. I finally figured out. Well, I knew how to do it. I just finally actually did add emotes to the channel, so it's good. It's good times.
Started doing that as well. Yeah, it's good stuff. If you guys want to check out either Discord, you want to go to the website, click the button, or follow High Noon Podcast to theirs as well. There's lots of people doing stuff on readily updating you with esports news in both. I will definitely hand it to Blevins. Your guys' crew is posting it way faster in a lot of respects and has some cool guests in both Discords. But yeah, the Discord community is great, and join all the Discords, guys. They're just fantastic communities to go be a part of and discuss. We've got people in our server that are also in yours, and you guys got your server people in ours, including us ourselves are in both Discords. So if you want to ping us in either Discord, we'll, speak our name and we shall appear like a magician. So it'll happen. If you guys want to find me, I'm over at Twitter and Instagram with the tag NotRob. You can also find my Twitch feed, which has ironically been going on this week, and I haven't really said anything about it, but Not Rob May is my Twitch stream. I've been Twitch streaming Destiny 2, and I just hit max level today, and I'm really excited, and it's been awesome. I also have another side project. I have two side projects. One is another show called Velen's Chosen. It is a Hearthstone teaching podcast with a lot of lore. It's packed into it if you're interested in Warcraft lore, and that's with my co-host Eve and Watchman or Grant, and we do that every week as well. If you like that, I'm also representing them on the Hearthstone panel at Calm Before the Storm. And then I also have another side project, a solo podcast called Concept Craft. I just released another episode finally after a long hiatus to help creators. If you're interested in that and just kind of some concepts of things that may help you as a creator, you can go over there. And that's on, I think it's libsyn.com/ conceptcraft.libsyn.com. There you go. But that's going to do it from this show. Make sure if you're going to BlizzCon, try to come on Thursday to Calm Before Storm.
Yeah.
Andres will be on the Overwatch panel. Blevins will be in the room, and I will be in the room. And also, I will be on the Hearthstone panel if you like Hearthstone at 7. If you want to find
got a meet
all
and greet at 9.
Oh, that's right. Blevins got on the meet and greet, so you guys can go check him out there. And all the details are on the website, calmbeforestorm.com. Or you can click the World of Podcast tab at the top to see the entire schedule for the event. Thank you guys for joining us so much. It's been a blast having you guys on the show, Blevins and Deathblow. It's great to finally do the full collab instead of the half collabs that we've been doing for months.
Emergency fill-in hosts. Yep.
Yep. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of a different episode. We will be uploading next week for BlizzCon. We are uploading the panel, so you're going to see a lot of other shows doing that. I needed to make sure I announced that before I forgot, but that's what next week's going to be. And then Andres and I are currently working out some other little snippets. We might upload a couple bonus stuff that we're going to be recording at BlizzCon. Maybe we'll even pull Blevins in and record some stuff together. So you guys take it easy. Remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist, and make sure you watch out for those high noons because they're going to be deadly. See you next week.
It's high noon.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Mr. Mars, the Anthrax, Good Apollo. Saw Thornrain in there, or A Smith in there. Ratlin. Crashy. What else we got? Tubba Tim. Andrew. Thank you guys for joining us. Take it easy. Happy Halloween. Don't hurt yourself, kids. Watch your upper cavities.
The rest you must learn
Especially Deathblow.
yourself.
That dentist
Walk
visit.
in harmony